Hi YouTube, it's Arcade Machine 15 here. I just thought I'd make a video showing a problem I'm having here. This is a problem I never had before, and it's quite annoying. So if you look at my screen, it has the Xbox boot up, messed up to hell, and yeah, here's the Xbox. So here's what happened. This Xbox was full of dust. I took it apart, and the main issue was the disk drive wasn't reading, so I put a new laser in the disk drive. I thought it'd be cool, if I cleaned it up properly, put new thermal paste. That's usually no problem, right? So I did all that, put it back together, well, like this at least, and then turned it on. It worked, great. And then, I let it go like this for a while to make sure that the thermal paste would bond to the CPU and GPU, and then turned it off. I got the DVD drive ready, installed it, turned it on, get this, one red light. It said that the network chip was bad, which is right there. So I actually just, tinned all the pins with a soldering iron, made sure that they were all good, and then the error changed to an E65. And, yeah, it doesn't do this all the time, but most times it'll get the E60, or the error E5, and, I guess the only thing I can really do is try changing the chip, which is a pain in the ass, because look at all those pins you need to unsolder. This is ridiculous, and this is apparently one of the rarest problems you can have with a 360, which is really unfortunate considering that this Xbox is something I'm repairing for somebody that, they need it real bad. So, like, why? Why does this have to happen? So let's turn it off here. Turn it back on and look at the screen. Everything 7.5. And let's try unplugging it and seeing if it'll do the Xbox logo thing again. Yep, see? I just predicted it because I knew that it was gonna happen. It just does this strange shit. And it has the one flashing light. So, oh, and where is it? I was having some things earlier that were kind of strange. If I'd plugged the Ethernet adapter in, or the Wi-Fi adapter, I mean, the console would freeze at the same spot, but it would have the ring of light keeps like spin till like it normally does on a working Xbox. I don't know if it's gonna do it, but let's see real quick. Plug in the internet adapter or the Wi-Fi adapter, turn it on, and let's see. No, it just did 2. Alright. Then it's probably gonna go back to E65. Or sometimes for some reason it doesn't even put the error up. But yeah, I will probably update you guys with this, but this is all I can do for now. So, thank you for watching, and I am really pissed off with this right now. Hi YouTube, it's Arcade Machine 15 here, and I'm really happy to make this video here. As you can see, Rock Band is on the screen, and it's coming off of this Xbox right here. Now let me also show you that this is connected to Xbox Live, and it's working flawlessly. Now, let's turn this off for a second and get a bit of a background about it. So, I'm gonna unplug it here, because I don't want anything bad to happen to this, because I've been through a lot with this thing right here. Now, this thing is from September 2015. I made a video of an Xbox 360 that got E65. I don't know what the exact error would. I mean, I'll put an annotation of what the error was, but it had an error. Well, I got it, and I was supposed to fix it, and it had a disk drive error. So I fixed the disk drive error, and I was putting new thermal paste on it, being courteous, And when I put the new thorough paste and put the heat sinks back on and put it all back together, well, not all back together, but like to this part back together, I turned it on and it got the one red light, and it would not boot. It would not even show the boot screen. It like show like a little second of it, and then it would flash to the air screen. And it was obvious what it was. I searched on the internet for a good 5 minutes, and it was clear what it was. There's a chip right at the back there, um, which I can show you when I move this. That is the internet chip. It controls all the internet, functions on the Xbox, and if it's not working properly, the console will not boot. So for whatever reason, that chip was fried, and the console wouldn't boot because it knew that it was fried. And I tried fixing it. I got them off of different boards. I used a heat gun, pulled them off of different boards, because there was a video on the internet that says you can use the heat gun, pull it off, and then use the heat gun to put it back on onto the other board. But the problem is the chips kept on failing because the heat gun would literally fry them. I mean, they'd look okay, but they actually were fried by the time I got them on the motherboard. And yeah, so I gave up on this thing for well, ever since 2015 in September. So it's been a while that I gave up on this, but I came back to it, and yeah, I had another internet chip, a brand new one that I got off eBay for $15. It's expensive, I know, but I wanted to see what I could do with this, and no heat gun, none of that bull crap. I don't know how people on YouTube say that actually fixes it. Heating off another chip and then heating it back on with the heat gun. You can't heat a chip back on and heat the solder. The chip's just gonna be fried from the heat when you're trying to heat the solder back up. What I did is well, before when I was messing with the other chips that I was putting on this board, I actually ruined solder joints on, or solder pads on the part where the chip goes. So when I was putting this chip on, I had to, make a bit of adjustments. So here we go. I'm just going to show you what I did. I'm going to pull the disk drive out carefully, and then I'll show you what I did. Hold on. Alright, so I'm trying to show you the chip. The chip is that chip right back there. That really big one there with all the solder joints and the wires. I wish this would focus a bit better, but I'm trying to use my iPhone, there we go, for the flash, and there we can see the chip and the wires. So what I did here is, from removing the chip previously, because I tried to put new chips on this like over 3 times, and the chips would have to go back from the heat gun because I was removing them off of other boards, and yeah, so I had to remove them after when I realized it didn't work. So I put this one on. This is when I got off eBay, like I said, for $15. And the chips, some of the pads are missing because they got ripped off from previous installations of the chip. So what I did is I had use these jumper wires, which you can hardly see. They're the red wires there. There's 3 of them, and I put them. I was lucky because I actually could see where the traces went. There was like little solder joints where the traces went, and some of them I had to scrape off the copper to the traces to solder onto them, and it was a pain in the ass because the solder didn't want to stick to the traces that I was trying to scrape the copper on, because it wasn't meant to stick to that. It was meant to stick to the actual solder pads, which were ripped off. But luckily I managed to get those wires that you can hardly see there to stick on to traces and other locations that are separate from the pads, since the pads are ripped off. And it does give the chip the connections it needs, even though the pads are ripped off. Like, the jumper wires work great for this, but the problem is that you can't even see it. They're so tiny. There's little tiny capacitors. I wish I could show you what they look like, but they're so tiny that from all the times I was messing with this, they came off the board, and I can do it, but I can't. I would need to buy the components, the capacitors, off of eBay or something to put them on there, because I've tried removing little tiny capacitors, and they're like, let's see if I can show you, like you see those little capacitors right there where the end of my thumb is there? See those little tiny components? That's what needs to be put back on there, because there's some areas where they got pulled off from me messing with the chips, putting new chips on, trying to get this to work. And it was a pain in the ass, like I said. And look how many solder joints there is on that chip. There's a ton of solder joints on that chip, plus the jumper wires. The jumper wires were the hardest thing I had to do on this. But yeah, the only things I couldn't get on were those capacitors, because even if I tried to remove them from another board, they would stick to the soldering iron, and if they stuck to the soldering iron, they would pretty much burn the chip out, and I'm screwed. So the only way I can actually replace those little tiny chips that are missing now is buy them off eBay, and I can't do that because I don't know the value of them. I don't know what the output is, the voltage. So I just gave it a shot without those little tiny resistors, which you can't even see, with the chip on correctly with the jumper wires, and it worked. The Xbox is fully functional now, and it's great. I was going to put hot glue over those jumper wires, but I realized that I don't want to risk the connections that I have already with them, because it was hard getting them to stick with the solder, and I don't want the solder to rip off or anything, or I don't want anything bad to happen. And since it's working now, I'd rather not have it put a step backwards after all the time I put into it. So it's working now, but there is one downside to it, and I'll show you that in a second here. Jump cut. Okay, so I just turned the Xbox on here. Let me focus this. Now, obviously before it didn't even go that far, and it would give me the error before it even, like, it'd show it'd show the boot for like not even a second, and then it would go to an error. So there's the accounts right now, and sign in. Now it's not going to get to Xbox Live, and that's where the issues are going to come in right now, because I unplugged the Wi-Fi adapter here, and that's the only problem with this. The Wi-Fi adapter needs to be used to go on Xbox Live. Not a big issue. These things are, what, $20, and you can find them anywhere now, really. These things are pretty much necessary if you have an Xbox 360, because, you know, not a lot of people even use the broadband anyways. But the broadband does not work. So those capacitors or resistors that got removed, the tiny ass ones that came off when I was replacing that chip a dozen times, yeah, I mean, it was bound to happen. The parts are so tiny, they're so tiny, they came off, and I can't get components off of other motherboards, because they'll stick to the soldering iron because they're so tiny and light, and they'll pretty much burn. So whatever those chips did, those little capacitors, they controlled the internet. So if I plug the internet cable in right now, okay, that's making a buzzing noise because it's not seated properly, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to test the connection. I'm going to focus this a bit better for you guys. We're going to go into the connection here, and we're going to test the connection. Now, another thing I should mention with this is I couldn't get to Xbox Live with the Wi-Fi adapter at first either, which I then figured out was because of the disk drive. Now, I didn't have the disk drive in it at first, and I kept on trying to connect to Xbox Live, and it would not connect to Xbox Live without the update. So without the update, it was basically telling me I can't go on Xbox Live, and I tried to update, and it would say update failed. I searched it up. There was a way where you could put it on a USB flash drive and put it on the Xbox. I tried that, and it failed even with this. So what I did is I just said, I'm going to try putting the disk drive in. Maybe the disk drive needs to be in so that it can tell that it's actually, that all the parts are in the system. Maybe it just needs to verify that everything's there, and it's, you know, before it can finish the update. And for whatever reason, that's what the case was. It needed the disk drive in to do the update. For whatever reason, it knew it wasn't there, and it was complaining about it. But yeah, here's what it says. It says, there's a problem with your connection. Let's try to fix it. And it gives me all these steps. It makes me think that my modem is broken, or my router thinks that the router needs to be reset for the 15 seconds and all that crap. But obviously, if I plug this in, and then if I try doing it, I guarantee you it will work just fine. Come on. Don't know why I went back. Test. There we go. any day now. And there we go. So it's working just fine, but the broadband doesn't work because of those capacitors or little tiny resistors that got removed. Um, Honestly, I could care less, or actually I couldn't care less about those resistors because really, who uses broadband nowadays, right? No. I mean, yeah, of course it's going to have better speeds and all, but I got a Wi-Fi dongle and I'm 2 feet away from the router, so I mean, who cares? Really, it's not a big deal. And basically everyone has one for the older consoles anyways, so it's hardly even a problem. So this is working now. It's been a long time, long last, and I had so many issues getting this thing working. First, obviously the red light. Second, when I got it working, it wouldn't update because the disk drive wasn't there. And then also, even the disk drive had a bad laser, which was the main problem with it before. But I thought I replaced the laser before it gave me the red light. But no, it needed another replacement laser. The lasers go bad so quickly on these systems. And then after that, um, I believe there was no more issues. So yeah, that's it. And I'm quite happy that this has turned out this way. And thanks for watching.